Here's the easiest way to do an ollie. If you can't ollie, I'll give you a couple of drills to show you how you can do it. And if you can already ollie, here's how you make it easier. Let's not get obsessed with just because we made an ollie, the next thing we have to learn is kick flips or tray flips or 360s. Let's take it slow, improve the skill set that we have, and make it as easy as possible. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Let's get to it. The ollie complex that we'll be doing today starts with a hippy jump, then a hippy jump where you lift the nose and don't hit the tail on the ground, and then a hippy jump where you do hit the tail on the ground. And then we're gonna turn that into an ollie. A lot of what we will focus on today is how to go from the hippy jump where your tail is just bouncing on the ground into a really nice ollie where we get the board to flatten out at the top. Let's start with the hippy jump. There are some things that you need to get right for the hippy jump to translate into an ollie. The first thing is the most basic thing, but it also takes the most discipline for beginners to have a good foot position. Every time you step on the board, look down at your feet, see where they are, and deliberately place them where you want them. When you're putting your feet on the board, I want you to make sure that you're not hanging your toes off the toe side rail and that your entire foot is on the board. It's okay if the toe of your shoe touches or is on the rail, but please don't hang your toes off. And it's even more important for your back foot. Our front foot placement will be just underneath the front bolts, or you can even touch the front bolts if you'd like, but as your feet get wider, it gets harder and harder to pop. As your feet get more narrow, the balance will become more unstable at the bottom of your squat, so it'll be harder to get out of the bottom to initiate that jump. So that's the game we're playing. Too narrow, you're gonna lose your balance. Too wide, it's gonna be hard to pop. So you'll have to find the sweet spot for yourself. Something that every skill level should practice, when you're initiating the hippy jump, make sure that you're holding the board flat in a straight line as you're pushing against the board to get the power to jump. This means you're not leaning off of the heel side or you're not jumping off of the toe side to get these jumps rolling. And at first, you're just gonna have to look at the board to know. I recommend that you take the time to set your wheels up right along a crack. So then when you're skating, you can see if you're going in a straight line or you can see if you're swerving unnecessarily. And as you initiate the jump, you'll get really good feedback on which direction you're more likely to turn. I promise that you're turning more than you think. So if you set up your wheels on the crack and you go to initiate your jump, and you're swerving all over this thing, that is a problem that's worth solving. Get your foot position a little bit better, find your squat into the balls of your feet, really focus your energy on holding the board flat. That's how we get our power up in the air. If you're squatting and tipping forward or backwards, you're gonna lose power in your jump. You're killing the height of your ollie before it even starts. A very underrated skill that you can work on right now on your hippy jumps is controlling your foot position on landing, okay? It's easy to focus, to get your fundamentals right, to be disciplined and set your feet up right for the takeoff. But once you jump, fear kicks in and a lot of people lose connection with their feet. So I want you to land from your hippy jumps with your back foot on the tail and your front foot underneath the front bolts. This will feel like a very tight foot position. It'll feel a little bit different than you're used to, but it's exactly the same as the takeoff position. All right, set up, jump, and land. Same position. When you're jumping, some things to keep in mind. Take your squat and let your upper body hinge forward. So in this case, my chest would be pointed about 45 degrees out and towards the ground. I don't know why, but it seems like Most people think that you have to hold your chest up when you squat to stay balanced. This is just so far from the truth. Please go into your brain, delete that, and get used to hinging your upper body so your chest can point more towards the ground when you're in your squat. And then when you jump, don't just pull your upper body up and then try and jump. There's a bunch of reasons, but the main reason we don't want to do that is because we lose our vision right away. We can't see your board. So keep your upper body hinged, push into your feet to then leave the ground, and you can pick up your upper body at the end, but that will happen naturally. I spend most of my energy keeping my upper body still and just pushing into the legs, okay? We would call this something akin to a partial squat, straight leg jump. And that's what we're gonna do to initiate a lot of these hippie jumps. That'll give you a way better feel than just throwing yourself up into the air. I actually tried to make that one. So there's that. I know a lot of you guys want to move straight on from hippie jumps and go into the next thing, but please take your time and just go practice it for, I mean, the bar is so low. Practice it for like a day. Give yourself like 1 hour and work on each of the things that I mentioned, and I promise your skating will be better because of it. It doesn't take months or years, like you're not gonna spend the rest of your life doing hippie jumps, but please, most of you guys aren't even gonna take an hour to work on it. Just please go do that. Okay, now that we're on to hippie jump, lift the nose. Let's talk about how you even lift the nose. To explain this properly, I first want you to understand how my balance is shifting backwards and forwards to lift and set down the nose, okay? It's very simple. It's not shifting backwards or forwards. Dude, I nailed it! I nailed it! We lift the nose in the air by creating space between our front foot and the ground, okay? If my front foot is on the board and my back foot is on the tail, I cannot take my front foot off the board. If I step forward or backwards, this front foot will not come off the board unless I put my tail on the ground, then I can pick it up, okay? This isn't from planting extra weight in my back foot. If I just stomp on my tail, I would literally break my tail before my nose comes in the air. All I have to do is pick this one up, okay? So when you're doing a hippie jump and you wanna lift the nose, you just have to learn how to time your extension, your little jump, with creating a little bit of space on your front foot. Not by going like this. Just by jumping over your front leg, lifting it in the air a little bit. You can start this by jumping and only taking your back foot off. Your front foot can stay on the board and your nose will lift in the air and your feet can stay at the same level. Then you can just jump a little higher, leave that board behind. It will take some touch, okay? This is the interesting part about finding the tension for your pops. There's a little bit of push and pull on your front foot. It's not all pull. You're not only picking it up. You're extending off of the board and you're feathering the nose in the air by feeling tension on your front foot and jumping, okay? A way we can feel that is by starting on your tail, keeping your balance there, and pushing your front foot down as hard as you can without falling over it. And then going back on your tail. This is gonna force you to stand up tall and to stay over the back trucks so you're not hitting your front foot on the ground. If you were to do this off the board, right, it looks like this. Okay, if I squat down too much, I'm just gonna be stomping on the ground, right? You see how these motions are connected. This little bit of tension that you feel when you straighten that leg and you're standing on the back truck, that is where you're gonna hippy jump from. So as you're trying to figure out how to jump and lift the nose, go back and forth. Do a hippy jump and lift the nose, then plant the tail on the ground, push down a couple of times, try not to fall forward or backwards, then go back to it, hippy jump, lift the nose. You should be able to find that small hippy jump, lifting the nose with some time if you just work on those two skills back and forth. Does this remind you of your practice? Always chasing something and not getting any closer? Make sure you go to our website and check out our programs so you can start getting better, faster. Part 3 of the complex, where we start hitting the tail on the ground. We are gonna follow all the same rules that we've been following before, except when we jump, we need to lift our front foot high enough in the air to confirm our tail on the ground. You control how far your tail goes towards the ground by how high you lift your front foot and what direction you lift your front foot in. If you drag your front foot up onto the nose as you lift it, you're gonna have to lift it a lot higher to hit the tail on the ground than if you were to bring your front foot to the inside as you lift it up. So in this stage where you're learning how to hit your tail on the ground and combining it with a jump, I want you to experiment and adjust your front foot direction with each pop. Find one that works for you and find one where you feel like that board wants to bounce in the best way possible. Here's a great tool that I want you to use. To know where your feet are and where your legs are, I want you to think about your knees and your shoulders. You know where your own shoulder is. You can lift your knee to your shoulders very easily. I mean, some of you guys won't be as flexible, you'll get stuck here, but the concept is the same. If you're looking at the board to see where your feet are, it's very confusing. Because if the board is at this angle and you're moving forward, it's really hard to know what straight up, what forward, and what backwards really is. So you have to think about moving your own body relative to your other body parts. Lift your knee towards your shoulder, then lift your knee towards your center line, then try and lift your knee towards your back shoulder. That's a great way to say, okay, straight up, a little bit back, way back, and see how that affects your hippy jumps when you lift the nose. The next thing you can do, once you're able to jump and connect your tail to the ground, try and give as much space as possible between your back foot and the ground. So this means that you're not smashing the tail on the ground and then jumping. I want you to jump off of the board with your nose barely in the air and then send your tail all the way to the ground. By the time your tail hits the ground, I want you to see how far away from the board you can be. The more space we can get between our jump and the tail hitting the ground, the better control we will have when it comes to actually doing an ollie. When you do an ollie, your back foot never touches the ground, and you have to be able to control where you're jumping from. Attempting to jump with your wheels only a millimeter off of the ground is a great way to practice sending the tail at the ground. And the last thing I want you to practice is trying to bounce your tail 2 or 3 times in one jump, right? You can get creative in the direction you're sending the tail. So if you push the board forward as you pop, you're gonna scrape the ground and be able to bounce the tail a couple of times in one jump. These are the stepping stones to an ollie. You can also try and send the board the other way. You can send the board backwards as you're doing hippy jumps and hitting the tail. This will give you a great sense of the job your back foot has in the pop and how to adjust that, and the job your front foot and your front leg has when it comes to controlling where that nose is going as you go into the air. Okay, let's get to ollies. To transition from a hippy jump where you're hitting the tail on the ground into an ollie is largely determined by which direction you're moving your feet, okay? If you're popping the tail on the ground and it's bouncing in the air, you already have enough force to do an ollie and to flatten it out. It's just how we go about doing it that's the hard part. So if we look at a hand ollie, which I just showed you, you can see my back foot is going like this. It's going down and a little bit backwards. This is to help bring the nose back into me, making it easy to flatten the board out. You also notice that my back foot doesn't touch the ground because that would trap the tail to the ground, making it impossible to pop, okay? So once you find the direction that you like pushing your back foot into the ground to control your pop, then you can start adjusting your front foot direction. I recommend that you pick your front leg up a little bit to the inside towards your center line, and you let your foot roll to the inside of your knee. This is counterintuitive because, well, the whole slide your front foot thing makes you think that your front foot has to go out here or very wide. But let's just break this down logically, then you guys can decide for yourself. If I just pop the tail, my nose is gonna come up and backwards. With that being said, I have to bring my front foot back to catch the nose at the top, right? If I wanna keep my nose in the same spot, I have to drag the tail forward. My back foot's not gonna be on the board. So considering that the nose is gonna come up towards your center line, I recommend that you bring your front foot up towards your center line as well. Since it's easier to pop the board by pushing your back foot backwards a little bit and bring your front foot up and back, now we have both of our feet moving up and backwards, allowing us to then lightly push on the board to flatten it out. I see all these comments that are like, you literally just slid your front foot. Okay, my front foot will go from here. It will go up. Without the board, it's going up, and then the front foot is rolling back under the knee, and then it's up to you how wide you want to land your feet. I can land with my feet outside of my shoulders, out on the nose and tail. This would require more of a slide, right? That's a sliding motion. I can also land an ollie with my front foot in the middle of the board. It goes here, then it goes up into the air, and if you ignore the board, it's going up into the air, going back under the knee, and then I can set it down in the middle of the board. So there's a very small movement forward with that front foot at the top, and it's paired with that upward motion to flatten it out. And it's facilitated by getting the board going up and backwards into both your feet at the top. Now that you got the spiel on everything that we're trying to accomplish, I'm gonna give you a couple of drills so you can practice it yourself. Drill one is just a dynamic ollie while you're rolling forward, and focus on popping and sending your back foot backwards a little bit as you pop, and bring that nose up into you as hard as you can. Don't think about trying to jump as high as you can. Don't think about trying to get the board up into the air as high as you can. I want you to find maximum pressure from your nose up against your front foot. If you're finding a lot of pressure and you can feel the nose in the air right here, you're in good shape. Most people try and push down and forward. It makes it really hard to get the tail into the air. So that means we're bringing the nose this way towards us and not just up into the air. That's a big perspective shift. and I think it's gonna be really helpful. You can also practice it going fakie. The biggest problem that people have with fakie ollies is they leave the board behind. But if you think about exactly what we're talking about, all you gotta do is send that board with your back foot a little bit towards where you're going. And it'll stay right under you. So a drill to focus on your front foot, hip circles. I want you to pick your front foot up to the inside and just bring your front foot up and around and then set it down in the exact same spot. And then try this same motion when you're doing an ollie. Okay, it's gonna start in a comfortable spot, go up to the inside, up and over, and then we'll set it down. You're gonna be searching a lot for your front foot path while you're practicing this. That's okay. You've never paid attention to your foot path ever before. All you've tried to do is feel the grip tape and feel a sliding motion and maybe try to time a jump and not understand what's going on. So if it's confusing, if it's hard to connect your brain to your front foot and to change your foot path, that's all right. Give it time, take your ollies slow, but spend the time working on it because that's the only way you'll ever find the foot path that you need. All right, that's pretty good. Now that you can put all those skills together, go through the ollie complex over and over and find your ollies. Okay, good luck. I'm counting on you guys. So that was the easiest way to ollie. But it turns out ollies are still pretty hard. So if you're struggling, check out our website, skateiq.com. We have a bunch of programs. One of them is the art of popping. So if you want to take the guesswork out of your practice, you know exactly which drill to practice and for how long and what to do next, we have all that mapped out for you. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.